Hello everyone, I'm Leslie from Botanica, and in this tutorial I wanted to share with you what you can do with our Sanctuary Mini. The Sanctuary Mini is a small mossarium or terrarium, meaning you can use it for mosses and you can also use it for tiny plants, little cuttings, anything that enjoys or requires higher humidity. The product is 100% made in South Australia, 100% recyclable, and it comes in 3 parts. So there's a top, there is a base, which also contains an insert, and I'll explain to you which mosses, which plants you use in which way. The first example I'm going to give you is using our flat sheet moss. So if you've collected moss off a rock, it would usually look something like this. This is a pleurocarp moss. It likes to branch out. Sometimes it's thin and sometimes it's thicker, depending on how long it's been growing, because moss likes to grow over the top itself. So this will be the first one I'll make up. I'll move these out to the side. So for this type of moss, what I would do is place it on the insert. The insert is a dome shape. So not only does that present the moss really nicely, it actually acts as a way to drain excess water away from the underside of the moss. The moss doesn't have a root system. It's got tiny rhizoids that branch out and hold it together, but it really prefers to drink through its leaves. So I'm draining the water away here with this design, and it sits in the reservoir. So to plant this one up, all you have to do, if you've got a thicker piece of moss, is measure out, so about that much. Break it away or cut it away. That's about right. Put the dish in. Place your moss over the top. Tuck in the edges. Give it a good misting. And cut away any fronds that are going to be on the outside, on the outer edge touching the top, because you'll find that they'll brown pretty quickly. And that is option 1. Now if you had a thinner piece of moss, here's what I would do. So you can see this piece is a lot thinner. I recommend grabbing some sphagnum moss and just build up the layer underneath. What happens when you have a really thin sheet of moss and it's allowed to dry out, when you do water it again, you'll find it will never spring back to the same kind of density. It shrinks a little bit. So by doing this, we're giving it some extra life. As I would mist it this much every day for the first 2 weeks, and then after that you'll find you won't need to mist it as much, perhaps once or twice a week. Okay, it's version 2. I'm going to pop this one back here and let's do our next version. For option 2, if you have moss that's really thick, like these guys here, we can do one of 2 things. We can cut away the underside. You can see the moss has really been growing for a while, and shape it to more of a dome. Don't cut into the green, but you can cut that away and get that nice presentation that Sanctuary has. Or, like that. Or we can just take the insert out and plant directly in the base. Because we've taken the insert out, I do recommend creating a little bit of a drainage layer, substrate layer underneath with some gravel. So a couple of teaspoons is all you need just to cover the base. You can use soil if you like. I'm going to add some sphagnum underneath. This one's pretty good. It's amazing how much water moss actually holds. I haven't watered that for a while. It's insane. So this piece is really chunky. We'll measure out how much we need and just break away any excess. We don't need to trim this one as much. I usually take off any brown bits and then any pieces that are going to sit quite closely to the top edge. This is a beautiful moss. I'll put the title, the name of it in the description. It's really bright green. This one won't grow too much in height. You might get new little shoots, fronds coming out in between the current ones, whereas the other moss I showed you, you will get a lot of height from that one as the fronds are searching for the light. Okay, that's that one there. And finally, if you wanted to plant a plant in your Sanctuary Mini, you need a bit more room for soil. So once again, we're taking out the insert. If it's a cutting or you're propagating or you've got seedlings, you can actually flip the insert and plant in here. An example of that I've done here, I have some cuttings from a biodome. I've included some moss, a little bit of soil and pebbles at the bottom, only a tiny amount. And I'm just getting these cuttings to root. This Ficus. I'll put the title in the name in the description. We can see that's doing really, really well. So if you only require a small space, then flipping the lid is all you need. If you're doing something like planting a Fittonia or something with a slightly larger root system, you want to take the dish out altogether. So similarly, we're going to create a little drainage layer with some pebbles. And misting just to keep everything together. Tiny bit of soil to start. Pat that down. And I've already removed most of the original soil. Just going to massage that in, just so the roots are well nested in there. And then just add a little more soil around the edge. You can also at this point include moss or pebbles. For this tutorial, I'm going to include some pebbles, I think, because there's a lot of different green going on already, so I think the pebbles will look really nice. There we go. I mist just to hold everything together. I avoid misting too much on the leaves. It encourages the leaves to break down too much because the environment's quite moisture rich. So avoid wetting the leaves too much. Wipe it down. Now you can get really creative with your plants and tiny miniscapes in here. So anything you collect along the way, or if you have just some really unique stones, rocks, you only really need a few key elements to make this look really impressive because it's a tiny space. I've seen people use little figurines in here, a little piece of moss and a really interesting rock, and that's all you need. So I'll share some examples of that actually from Instagram at the end of this tutorial, because it's really exciting what people are doing with it. So that's this one here. Pop the lid on. I recommend keeping the vents open, depending on what type of plant or moss you're using, but generally speaking, leave the vents open, and then you can just twist it like that. And that is the third option. So when it comes to caring for your mini sanctuary, remember that if you have moss, it enjoys to be misted because it drinks from its leaves. So give it a really good misting every day after you've made it up. After about 2 weeks, you can drop that back to twice a week. And it's not like a perfume spray. You really want to make sure the whole area is covered and you can see droplets on the fronds. For plants, use the mister that is provided with the sanctuary when you purchase it. Fill it with water and tip that into the center of the plant twice a week. If you're noticing that you're getting unwanted changes, you may need to water your plants more regularly. But as a guide, twice a week, the full spray bottle is all you need to do. Keep your sanctuaries out of direct sunlight. They enjoy a well-lit room, but not on a windowsill or in direct sun, because they would definitely cook. So somewhere on a desktop, in a kitchen, in a bedroom, bedside table, as long as it's not getting direct sun. And you will have happy days enjoying your Sanctuary Mini. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. I'll see you next week.